Okay, welcome to the December video chat with fans. I have a lot of more than usual announcements this time. Oh yeah, I don't have game footage. I decided, you know what, I'm just gonna try without. Everybody says I don't need to have it, so I'm just gonna be me talking. All the more reason to convert this to an MP3 later if you want to. But see, I shouldn't look at the chat because it throw off my train of thought. I'll do that afterwards. Yeah, so I'll start on announcements. This one's a little different. I set up a Reddit thread so people could vote on which questions they wanted the most. And I have so many questions this time. I'll get to that in a minute. I'm not going to be able to answer them all. But okay, yeah, announcements. First, there was no video last month. I was working on various things, partially on the movie. You know, I might as well get that out of the way. A lot of people ask, how's the movie going? I'm still in kind of a pre-production phase with the writing and the modeling and getting the system set up. Basically, the reason I don't talk about more is because I'm kind of embarrassed how far back I am because I had to throw time more at the other videos. See, when I spend more time on the movie, then there's no video. But that gets to the next thing. Work is underway on the next game dungeons, and I'm trying a new process that should be able to get a lot more videos out. I've already voiced the next episode. Just have to edit the audio. Going to pass it on to an editor who's helping me out. Then I'm going to start on the Christmas episode. And if I have more time in the month, then I'll start on another one. I'm going to really want to just try to knock these things out. So the next one, I can't predict when it's coming, but I'll make sure the next two come out before Christmas. I can't predict what. But so that's what's going on with that announcements. Oh yeah, a lot of people get tired how these tend to last like an hour or like 2 hours or an hour and a half. This past month is a perfect example of what these video chats are for because it's been a month, you know, no contact from me and no video. People are wondering what's going on. Well, this is like, you know, I'm still alive. I'm still working on stuff. Just behind, that's all. The dates of the next chat, Planetside 2, will be in the description. I don't even want to try to remember. It's usually like in the middle of the month. And the first, okay, here. I have a question for the chat. You guys get to determine the fate of this. Do you guys prefer the next video chat to be on a Saturday or a Sunday? So just type Saturday or Sunday in the chat. I'll go with whatever the consensus looks like. Okay, so there'll be a bit of a delay on that. What else? Oh yeah, Planetside 2, I had to cancel the last session because I changed some things on my computer and it wouldn't run. I managed to cobble together Zombie Panic at the last minute, thanks to some help. But I have it running now. Should be like sort of mid-December. Okay, it looks like Saturday is winning. The date will be... Oh, nope, Sunday might be catching up. Okay, well... Of course, I guess there would be a bias towards Saturday by asking the live audience. Oh, well. Well, we'll keep it for Saturday. So it'll be the first Saturday of January, I guess, for the next video chat. And I'll put the times in the YouTube description. This will go up on the main channel. So Planetside 2 will resume. Oh yeah, also something I've been wanting to try for a while. You know, I do some games where I'm really not that good, and I think some people think I'm just not good at any games. So I wanted to try to dispel that a little bit. I want to try and do a live session. I'm going to try to beat Supreme Commander on hard, no saves, no loads or anything, just all one shot, and do that live. So I think I'll try to do that this month. I may do it on my birthday. That's on the 28th. Or may not. I'll put that in the chat description too. I haven't decided on a date for that yet. But if you're interested, I've beaten it on hard, but I've never done it without any saves or loads. Just I'm going to try and do a straight one shot. Yeah, somebody's asking, what about Serious Sam? I might do Serious Sam another time. I think I think Serious Sam will be a little bit harder, especially because people are wanting me to beat like the last level on serious mode, like on one life. I think I can do it, but might need a little more preparation time. Oh, but speaking of my birthday, the last video, I'm still catching up from last year from what people sent. Pretty much everything on that list still applies, except I did figure out the scalar thing I was trying to do. I figured out a real hacked up solution for anyone interested to use the Microsoft Magnifier program. I positioned it just right, then I changed the settings so that you can't tell it not to track, but you can tell it to only track like a text cursor. And then I just positioned the windowed game where I wanted to, and I got it working that way. So I found a solution. Let's see. And, oh yeah. Another announcement. Okay. I want to announce this because, again, this is a game I'm really hoping lives in some form, because I think it's going to die, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years, something like that. But The Crew, the open world driving game, I announced this earlier, but it's going to be free one more day. As in if you show up on that day, you own a copy of it until they shut down the servers, essentially. So it's not a trial. On December 18th, and it wasn't clear last time. See, I was a sucker. I bought it for $10. I didn't know it was going to be free so often. But yeah, you do have to sign up for a Uplay account, which some people really hate that service. I'm not trying to push it on anyone. Oh, by the way, they're not paying me anything to say this, or there's no official endorsement. Basically, I want to encourage as many people who are interested to try to crack the damn thing so that, you know, when the servers eventually do shut down, you can still drive around the world. I really want to play that game, but I'm saving it till I get more done in the movie. See, I'm putting stuff off to make sure I stay focused. But my first half an hour impression of it was just the sort of thing I was looking for. So, but yeah, let's see. Yeah, that's, you say December 18th. I'll put a link for that in the YouTube description also when this goes up. So yeah, okay. So for questions, I'm going to answer the Reddit questions first. Although I got a lot of them and they started dwindling in quality, well, and questions I really wanted to answer, I guess. And I have more questions that weren't on Reddit that people submitted in the forums or the emails. So altogether, I think I have about 50 questions. So I have to call this somehow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to answer the first 10 questions on Reddit. And then I'm just going to pick the ones afterwards that I either like or that are easy for me to answer. You know, ones where I have to like stop and like think for like 3 minutes to figure out something good. I'd rather just move on from those. So yeah, let me pull those up and I'll start answering questions. Let's see. Oh come on. Okay. Now, I'll just answer the top 10 ones that are organized by best. I got confused a little bit by the ranking system. I just wanted something people could vote on. Okay, so the top question. Hey Ross, in several videos you've talked about your time as a security officer. Recently, out of desperation for not finding work elsewhere, I too have become a security officer. So far, I've only worked for 1 day, although this was a week ago, and it was absolute hell. Do you have any advice or moral boosters to those in the industry? Also, any interesting stories from your time in the industry? Boy, as for advice, just get good at letting your mind wander. I mean, like if there's anything like in your life you've like been trying to figure out how you're going to solve that, that's the perfect time to think about it. Basically, try to queue up any of your life problems or puzzles or anything that you really need to think about, and just, you know, come in. Oh yeah. Also bring a little notepad and a pen. You can just write if you have an interesting thought of something, maybe something you want to check out after you go home, like movie you want to watch, just any thought in your head. Just try anything to just sort of pad the time and get your mind somewhere else. I mean, if it's the type I had, if or, they don't want you walking around. They don't want you sitting at a desk or watching on. They just want you standing there like a human scarecrow. Unfortunately, I don't have much good advice. I mean, but definitely bring a little notepad and pen. Hey, you can write down if something suspicious happens if you get lucky. Yeah, that's the thing as a security guard. You're almost hoping something will happen because it's so dull otherwise. I mean, geez, I don't have much. I mean, when I did it, I actually wrote down some script ideas and dialogue chunks for civil protection, but it's still kind of soul crushing just standing there doing nothing all day or night, depending on when you have it. I think I'm going to turn the heat up. I'm shivering a bit. I'm noticing that's affecting my voice. Okay. Yeah, as for interesting things, not much interesting happened there is the thing. Probably my most memorable day was I actually got to leave early because it was snowing really hard and my boss actually okayed that. And the thing is, I had to drive back. It was a 45-minute commute. And as I was driving back, the snow just kept coming down harder and harder. And going the other way, there was a tractor trailer just spilled all across the road. I got lucky because I probably would have been snowed in if I had worked my full shift that day. What else? Well, my boss was pretty great, actually. He was, if I hadn't had a nice... If he wasn't as nice as he was, I don't know if I would have stayed as long as I did. He was a ex-police officer. And the thing is, he was so good at not looking like a cop. Like, I remember he showed up once and he had like this, because I didn't, there would be other security people we'd occasionally work with who would be the actual ones trying to bust shoplifters. Like, they would pretend to shop, and if they saw somebody suspicious, they would sort of tail them and kind of wait, see if they catch them in the act. I was just sort of the standing deterrent, scarecrow. But they actually were like trying to actively do things. And he was doing that at the store I was at one day. I mean, he wasn't there every day. It was only like once a week they did stuff like that, or twice a week. And I would not have guessed if I didn't know him. I mean, he just looked like think of like a stereotypical, like kind of clueless dad, just older. And that was the look he had on his face. You're like, why did I come here again? Like, it was just, he was so not good at being not suspicious. So I remember being really impressed by that. Yeah, I guess I don't have much else. Okay, yeah, lots of questions. Let's keep moving. Ross, any plans for a Game Dungeon follow-up episode 2? Yes. Actually, the reason I've been putting that off is because of the way I plan to switch for a lot of the Game Dungeon episodes, not all of them, where I write it out, voice it, but then let some volunteers help with the editing and the actual game recording. The follow-up episode is ideal for that kind of format. So I wanted to get a couple out as sort of a test run to make sure it's going okay. And then I'll probably do the follow-up episode, hopefully within the next, January or February, something like that. But it's no promise. But that's my plan, is because then I could just write that out. And then, because the follow-up episodes can take a lot of time, because then I have to pull footage from a bunch of different games I probably uninstalled, or I have to reconfigure, that sort of thing. So, yeah, that'll come. And, this question is also interesting because directly below this, somebody's saying, I think Ross covered this one already. He said that in the video chats essentially were the replacements for those. So that's wrong. No. The video chats are just sometimes a little bit extra thing I wanted to mention, but no, they're not the follow-up episodes. And yeah, that post got 5 points on Reddit. So, it showed. I like to point out examples when I know like the prevailing internet wisdom is completely wrong. So, okay, next question. Do you have a general idea or plan about how Freeman will adjust to his new surroundings in the world of Half-Life 2? And how do you think A Freeman's Mind 2 will differ from the original in regards to the pacing and character interactions? You know, I have a rough plan for Half-Life 2. Really, for Freeman's Mind 2, expect more of the same. You know, if you're happy with Freeman's Mind, you'll probably be happy with Freeman's Mind 2. I don't plan on changing the style or much of or Freeman's personality. I mean, it's pretty much going to be more what you come to expect. It's so. I mean, I figure for ambitious stuff, that's what I'd rather save for the movie or more original videos. For Freeman's Mind, there's only so much I can do with it anyway before it would turn into something else. But you know, that's expect the same Freeman from Half-Life 1, essentially. And I don't think it'll be that. I mean, there are more character interactions in Half-Life 2. But, you know, there's some in Half-Life 1. You know, how did those go? Well, it's going to go down similar ways. I guess there's one sort of, you could almost call it a twist I have planned, but this actually goes back to more expect Half-Life 1 Freeman's Mind. So just expect them exactly as you got them in Half-Life 1. So, okay, let's see. Oh yeah, this one's in the top 10, but it's not one I have a good answer for. If your life story was a novel being studied in a high school literature class, what would the teachers say the main theme or concept is? I mean, I don't know. I would almost see it as like a statistics thing where you pick a person at random and see, I don't know, try to divine some trends that are going on with the society based on that. I don't know. I don't think. Yeah, I think the analogy I came up with was like I thought of earlier. Was like, say you have like a cat gets like trapped in a closet and it just starts kind of thrashing around trying to figure out how to get out. I'd say that's probably the closest I would come to. I mean, I don't know how to describe my own life. Okay. What are some of your favorite conspiracy theories? You see, this is a good example while we have the voting, because I'm almost certain this one got asked in another chat. You know, I don't really follow too many conspiracy theories, actually. And I don't know, the thing about conspiracy theories is they're not really something, I mean, most of them that I see as like having a favorite or not, because I see a lot of them generally as kind of sad for differing reasons. Because on one hand, you might have the people who just they're just nutty theories and they're not, you know, lots of evidence to show that they're wrong. But the people who are concerned about them may have psychological problems or just maybe kind of ignorant, not very have access to much information or education. So they're really concerned about them. So that can be kind of sad. And on the other hand, you might have the conspiracy theories where they're actually real. The stuff is actually happening. And then those tend to be pretty depressing, you know, or stuff that just, you know, it's not a great way to look at the world, you know, or so I don't really have any favorites. So I guess my favorites are the ones that are just so out there that it's, you know, you can kind of laugh just hearing them. Actually, I thought of one. My girlfriend was actually researching this in the past. Apparently, there's a conspiracy theory. People are doing the work on this one about how the moon is a hologram. So yeah, I think I'll go with that one. That'd be my favorite conspiracy. I think those people have an uphill battle ahead of them. Okay. Hey Russ, I know you've mentioned your opinion on the Source Engine before, but is it going to be hard for you going back to it for Freeman's Mind too? I give you a lot of credit for doing most of your existing machinimas and swords. It can be a complete nightmare sometimes. Well, that's definitely something I'm concerned about. I mean, I'll say this. I'll make sure I have 100% offline working copy that's Steam independent of Half-Life 2 when I start it. You know, like probably use a Steam emulator and use the files. Actually, if people wanted, I have files that I could run this 2004 style Half-Life if people wanted to see that. I mean, it's a little different because like the Vortigaunts look a little different. I think some of the lighting's changed, but I guess I'll probably stick with the modern ones. I am concerned about it. I don't know. You know, it's like it'll probably start off fine, then I'll run into a major problem later. Although that's not the same degree. I have more options if I run into a problem, though. That's not the same degree of nightmare that civil protection is because, I mean, there's just incredibly more. It's the difference between like a really polished kind of playthrough versus, you know, making a small mod, and the level of work and variables you can run into. There's just no comparison really. So hopefully it won't get. Hey, if it works the way it should be fine. But I don't know. We'll see. Although it was disliked by many others, I thought Moon Gaming was good at giving a creepy vibe while still staying humorous. It felt like there was some unspeakable horror watching you and your guest, and the only thing that kept your mind off it was talking about the video game being presented. Was that possible horror aspect something that's supposed to be genuine or played up as a joke? Will we ever see the series again? Well, it's more like, I figure if you're trapped on the moon and just isolated and don't really have much in the way of human contact, you start kind of losing a little bit of your faculties, a little bit for talking to other people. And that's sort of what I was aiming for with that. As for seeing it again, that was, people, that was, Moon Gaming was an attempt to try to buy more time for the movie. And I think that attempt kind of blew up. I mean, I know some people liked it, but a lot of my fans are pretty vocal about that, so I'm real wary to touch it again. I mean, I did for April Fools because I figured, okay, this would be a good idea for it. But I don't really see it coming back unless there's a lot of fan demand for it. So that's what a lot of like Game Dungeon, and I guess to some extent Freeman's Mind is. It's me getting a video out to try and buy time for something that I personally think would be cooler, but is going to take a lot longer. So that's the compromise. Is with it, but I don't think people were happy with the Moon Gaming compromise. So, I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's definitely not on the radar now. Okay, are you planning on Jeez, I lost track if I'm in the top 10 or not. Okay, are you planning on making more Zombie Panic source sessions? If so, will you do them along Planetside 2 or will they replace Planetside 2 sessions? Yeah, I'll try and do more. I don't know when they'll be though. I'll try. I think I might have to get some more maps. When we try to harvest, I think they changed the variable. It just seemed to go too fast. I remember it being more of like a holdout situation while the zombies were slowly getting in. Instead, it was just, it's like everything seemed to move too fast. I think they might have changed the variables. But those are the maps I like, is like when you're kind of surrounded by the zombies and they're coming in. But I mean, the main problem with it replacing Planetside 2 is not enough people would be able to join if they wanted to. I mean, yes, there were enough slots when I did it, but that was last minute notice, not advertising it or anything. So for now, Planetside 2 is still on. And I'll try to work in more Zombie Panic at some point. Okay. Okay, would you review a game like Daikatana for Game Dungeon? I've never played Daikatana, actually. Yeah, I could review. Actually, I do have a bad one. I'll probably review at some point. But it just depends. Well, we'll see. The shift I'm taking, Game Dungeon, I'm just going to try and get more games, period. That's what's coming this month. But, okay. So how many is that? That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so that was the 10th question. Okay, so I'm just going to pick ones out now. Again, there'll be 50 questions. People complain this stuff goes on too long as it is. So I'll just kind of pick out the ones that are easy for me to answer. Then I'll go to the chat for questions. Okay. Yeah, that's definitely more skippable ones here. Yeah, see, this is a good example of one like, what would you change about human nature? I mean, well, actually, I'll talk about that a little bit at some point in a future Ross rants. I think, I mean, I could say it now, but I've saved it as a surprise for that. I think we're overlooking a critical flaw in human nature and how we've organized society. I'll say that. And I'll mention it more in Ross rants. Oh yeah, here's one. With gaming on Linux, why not run Windows in a virtual machine? They may not work with the newest games, but surely anything from the 90s and early 2000s should be open season. I do that for kind of Windows 95, 98 games, like especially 2D ones. That's how I ran Arcade America. I know there's one or two others. Well, yeah, Polaris Snowcross. I had to. I mean, I don't like doing that for 3D stuff though, because unless the game supports it, you can't force anti-aliasing, and it's not as big a deal for me. But you can't get anisotropic filtering either. Anisotropic, however it's pronounced. I always try to like make the videos look as good and clean as I can for you guys to watch before it gets compressed into YouTube. But and you can run into graphical glitches also. I mean, that's what happened in Polaris Snowcross at night with the beams. So I mean, virtual machines absolutely help, and they're best, I think, for 2D games. But things can still go wrong, and you have less options than running them natively. And with Linux, I mean, I'm sure I'd run into. I'm sure I'm the person who would run into a lot of games that just could not get working because I'm trying games that didn't necessarily get a lot of attention in the first place. So. And yeah, for newer, I think somebody mentioned in the comments, newer stuff. I mean, good luck, for as far as performance. Okay, man. Okay, yeah. See, I'm just scrolling through all these questions that people put up. So he's talking about Warframe now, frankincense. Okay, well here's not a bad one. Hey Ross, given that you're a self-described soundtrack junkie, are you planning on doing an episode about your favorite game soundtracks? Maybe mention a few that come to mind that you haven't mentioned before. I'm much more reluctant about something like that because if I'm doing a video just on game music, it's like I'm getting closer to the fire as far as getting some sort of copyright takedown. Actually, an idea I was toying with was maybe just doing a session. I'm still on my quest to try to like organize soundtracks in a way that sort of they blend well for the mood you're after, because there's just so many variables with it. I mean, if you say soundtrack, that can mean anything. It can mean symphonic orchestra, it can mean industrial, rap metal. I mean, just reggae. I mean, it's all over the place. And then even among that, they can have really, see, a normal song that you might hear on the radio or just as an album, not all obviously, but most, they kind of stay more or less consistent throughout most of the song. Like, okay, you know, that kind of vibe. With soundtracks, they can just go all over the place in the same track. So it can be tricky trying to figure out how to sort them. I was thinking maybe fans might have some ideas on it. Like I would play some sort of, because I figured out some categories that work pretty well for me, and others I just have no idea where to put them. So I might bring some up and let fans see if they have any ideas. But I don't know if I'll get to that. I don't want to take on too much. I mean, okay, let's see. Okay, ones I don't have good answers for, pretty much. Or okay, now I'm switching to the other list of questions that people sent that was not on Reddit. Okay, so we took vote on this. Yeah, somebody was asking about moving the chat to Saturday back to Sunday. Hey, maybe I'll try and set up a poll later. We'll see. Ross at PAX Australia, I tried on a Vive and I have to say it was one of the coolest technology-related experiences I've had in my entire life. It wasn't even really a game, just explored in the ocean in a submarine. But the level of immersion was incredible. Okay. And this question, this is a long... It honestly makes me wonder, why isn't VR being aggressively marketed? I know it would be cool. I know it would be cool before I tried the Vive, but I didn't know just how fantastic an experience it would truly be. Seems to me that VR is being targeted at a very specific subset of people, and the marketing they are doing just isn't hyping up how awesome it is. Well, there's a lot of barriers to it. I mean, there's the cost. I mean, you have to have I guess with the PlayStation VR now, that lowered it some, but you're still talking hundreds of dollars. Getting the software to work right, or no, knowing what works well, convincing people to put it on their head. For me, man, number one issue is still concerns about motion sickness if I'm moving around. So, I mean, I saw... There's just a lot of barriers, I think. And again, just describing it to people might not cut it. So I'm still... I still have that mixed feelings about it because, yeah, I want to experience stuff in VR, but once you get outside of like just some room scale stuff, you know, like say there's a whole world you want to check out, I don't know how they do it without making people sick, or people who are sensitive to it sick, rather. But because, you know, some people aren't as easily affected. But yeah, just lots of barriers, I guess, is the main thing. Let's see, do enemy factions ever help each other in Planetside too? Yeah, I think it can happen. In fact, I was thinking that would be great if we could coordinate something like that. Although, I think they might have made Planetside 2 less fun to win now. Because, you know, if you just get a number of points and then that's it, you win the continent, that's not the same kind of feeling as like pushing the enemy back to their warp gate. Because that would be awesome to see. But I don't think that's possible now because once you get too much territory, that's it, your team won. I don't think you'd even get to that point. But it'd be awesome to try it out, have an alliance with one of the factions and just try to pummel the other one. Okay. You said in the videos about VR and 3D that good stereoscopic 3D can be a great experience. Do you have any good examples of movies, games with great 3D that someone who's only been exposed to bad 3D or no 3D at all could try out? Well, as somebody mentioned, if you can find it on display somewhere, just seeing almost any virtual reality 3D program gives you a good taste of it. They've pretty much done it right for virtual reality. That's what I would recommend first and foremost. For movies, I may have to revise my claim a little bit. wasn't as good. It's not on the same level, but I have to say, I saw it in the theater in 3D, mostly because my girlfriend dragged me to it. But Star Wars: The Force Awakens, it's probably the best 3D I've seen out of like recent movies that I've seen in the theater. Like when they were flying through like this Starship Destroyer ruins or whatever they're called. Starship ruins. That looked pretty good. Like it wasn't. They could do more, but they were trying. I'll say that they were trying. So that was probably the best that I've seen. Geez, in the past 15 years, something like that. So, but it's not as good as it can be. Like it still isn't as good as something as you might see in some amusement parks or like novelty theaters where they're really trying to throw the 3D effect at you. So it's still not that good, but for mainstream, that's probably the best that I've seen out of the ones so far. Okay, let's see. Yeah, I'm skipping a huge number of questions, but there's so many, I just decided, okay, chop them. Hey, I'll set up another Reddit thread for the next one, and the ones that get the most votes, we can... I'll let the fans prioritize this stuff. Because I know some people are sending me like 10 questions. Guys, that's too many, okay? You know, if you want to ask questions, maybe try to keep it down at 2 or 3 at the most, okay? In the future. I mean, I'm not a defected spy from another country with critical intel that, you know, you have to get out of me. You know, it's... These questions aren't most of these aren't too essential here. Oh yeah, I like this one. Here's another one regarding the movie. When you're estimating the whole project as one process, what would be the expected percentage spent on post-production versus in-engine work? And as an example, he says, like, you know, work in Premiere or After Effects or stuff like that, you know, audio. I would put the estimate as somewhere, I mean, based on civil protection, stuff like that. I'll put the estimate somewhere about 95 to 98% would be pre-production. So once I'm actually filming, it's like, oh my God, you know, it doesn't mean there's not a lot of work still ahead of me, but that's just how much work is involved with actually getting the 3D stuff on screen. I would, maybe 95%, well, something around there. Definitely not less than 90. So that's a good question that people should be aware of, you know, because whenever I see like tools for all this stuff in different engines. Oh, actually, yeah, this is something I also meant to mention. I've heard reports lately that this is mostly anecdotal evidence, so I kind of want to get some more testimony from people. Feel free to email me about this, you know, rosswscott@gmail.com. I've heard more reports of Unreal 4 being like not so stable, like trying to do basic things that can lead to crashes because they're more focused on just adding new features and not as good at, you know, patching up their old stuff. That's not what I want to hear. And at the same time, apparently I had written it off originally because at the time apparently now there are options in the Unity engine to have frame-by-frame rendering. So the speed of my computer wouldn't matter if I wanted to just render it at real high resolution with lots of detail, that sort of thing. Unity didn't used to have that. And so that made me write it off completely because I don't want the movie stuttering, you know, while the movie stuttering during playback. So if anybody who has worked in Unity or Unreal Engine 4, let me know what your impressions are of it as far as like stability of it, or if there's serious shortcomings. I mean, I'm essentially just doing nothing but cutscenes. So I'm not trying to do anything advanced as far as like designing a game. Just lots of cutscenes is essentially what I'm doing. I mean, maybe some AI elements for NPCs to kind of automate as much as I can. But if you have experience in Unreal 4 or Unity Engine, I'd love to hear some more opinions about like what you'd recommend just for, for stability and for kind of ease of use once you know what you're doing, I guess. So okay, keep moving with the question. Okay, you can start typing questions in the chat. I've one more here. Do 3 equal signs, and I'll go for chat questions. I'm sure you've heard of Warner Brothers buying Machinima. What are your thoughts on this buyout? Is it just another case of Sith Lord beating another one? I had not heard that until today, since I saw that question, actually. You know, this could actually very directly affect me. I'll see. I mean, normally I'd say it's a case of that, but here's the worst case scenario for me. They come in and say, you know what? We should just match anything on this channel, and they just do takedowns of all my videos, and my whole channel gets taken down because Freeman's Mind is up there, which I absolutely have permission to put up there. I can't get into more details, but I'll say that. I have evidence of such permission. So if that happened, I mean, I think, yeah, it said that, like, isn't Warner Brothers the one that did a copyright takedown on like something on their own site or their own material? So that should say something about how on top of things they are with that. But I would consider that a very real possibility. If you ever find out, you try to go to the channel and it just says like this channel is down or been deleted, you should assume that's what happened. And then come to the website if something like that happens. Or maybe Accursed Farms junk would still be up and I could throw something up there. If that happened, I might have to get help from people to try to sue them. Because, I mean, I already had... It really set me back. It really set me back when Machinima essentially just kind of put me in a position where they froze me from making videos for like, what, 8 or 9 months? Or something like that. So for them, and then to get this finally sorted out, like just officially, and then to have them come in, do something that just, you know, violates agreements I have signed with them yet again, I think, I mean, it would be going beyond just trying to get my rights back the way it was originally, because then it's almost, it would show a repeated pattern of abuse. You know, and I've never sued anyone. I'm not a litigious person, or is that it's not any incentive for me at all. But my God, Machinima, they caused me such an incredible amount of, but like this, there would be no Freeman's Mind if I hadn't fought back on that. It would have ended at around 45 or something like that. And there would be no more civil protection, as opposed to, you know, I hope to get back to it in the future, civil protection. So, or just all kinds of things. So hopefully that won't even happen, and they'll just ignore me. But I would consider that within the realm of possibilities. Okay, I'm looking at questions now. Ross, I know you're not likely to do another moon gaming, but if you could have anyone living, not quite as alive and or fictional, who would you get? Well, you got to get somebody. So that's a tricky question, because you got to get somebody who's going to want to talk about the games. You know, I mean, of course I like Teddy Roosevelt, but I don't know if he's got. I mean, he was a real outdoors kind of person. I don't think he necessarily jumped to video games aside from the technical marvel of it. Who would be a great game personality to have come on there? Because, like, well, see, I was real happy with having Tom on the Moon Gaming, I guess is the thing. Because some of the bigger YouTubers, you know, there might be a little more pressure because, you know, that they have like they have small empires going on. I don't know. I think I was happy with Tom showing up. So, and people didn't like that. So I guess that's why we're not having a lot more moon gaming. Russ, what is the most exotic game you've ever played? Yeah, it's like the really exotic ones I probably haven't played because I just see they're too out there just from the get go. Um, well, one I'm definitely saving for Game Dungeon, so I'm not gonna talk about that. That's one I'll probably have to do all myself, just because it's an accomplishment. She's the most out there game. The most exotic game. I don't know. I'm drawing a blank. Well, okay. I played some of, was it I Divine Cybermancy? I didn't get very far into it, but it was definitely approaching out there territory. I mean, many things were unintuitive, and it's like you're dropped into the middle of a plot they're not explaining, nor do you think they likely are going to explain it, and odd mechanics. It's an exotic game for sure, but and there's some of the Russian first-person shooters can get a little out there too. I'll have to cover more of those in Game Dungeons sometime. Okay, someone's asking geopolitical questions on recent. I almost want to just excuse myself from all international current politics questions because I tend to cover I paid with the internet now. You can sort of pick sort of what news you want to pay attention to. I like to pay attention to stuff like energy, economics, some technology, things like that. Of course, games, but that's not really like serious news. Things like that. With foreign affairs, I don't tend to follow it as much. I mean, aside from really enormous stuff. I mean, unless it's like actually affecting me. I mean, I feel like many countries have so many domestic issues that that's more enough to follow your time. Okay, let's see. I'm not. This one has been asked, although I almost wondering if the same person has asked this. This is the name I've seen. What software do you use for recording raw gameplay footage for Game Dungeon? Again, it varies. I use Fraps or DX Story. See, some of them you try it on one game, they start stuttering, like these old ones especially, and another one they won't stutter, and then it switches around. Like I remember Strife would stutter on some of them, but not others. For DOSBox, I did it for the earlier ones. Now I try to use the built-in game recorder. It works out pretty well, and it records to red, green, blue mode, which is helpful for those low-resolution games before I blow them up. For stuff where I'm not concerned as much about the color, because there can be subtle differences between recording in raw red, green, blue mode. I'll use Shadow Play because you have to have an NVIDIA card for that, but it unloads a lot of load onto the GPU. I use that for Deus Ex and for the Human Revolution. For stuff where I just want to record the full screen and it is kind of color sensitive, like for real low resolution stuff, then I'll use Bandicam for those. So yeah, it's like I use several. Some games behave with some recording programs better than others. Do you plan on seeing Rogue One? I'll see it eventually. If my girlfriend insists on seeing it in the theater, then I guess I have to. Let's see. I mean, it's not that it's a chore. It's just that I prefer to save the money, on going to the theater. Someone's asking if I've ever been to Austria personally, because Freeman mentioned Innsbruck. Well, I was just going with the lore there for Freeman. But have I been to Austria? No, I haven't. I'd like to try that. I'd like to eventually, though, if just because of this YouTube video I saw of an alpine slide where they're going down this sort of one-person monorail slide down the entire length of a mountain. It looked awesome. Oh yeah, actually, yeah, Austria. I've seen in some movies before. It's pretty amazing with the mountain ranges from some areas. But okay, I mean, just visually. Okay. If you thought about doing a video on Carmageddon series, I can maybe do it. That's another. It's not top of my list. I mean, I figure it's pretty well known. That's one of those where I would definitely try it using this new method. Let somebody else edit it. Somebody else went through the gameplay of it, and so I can just kind of talk about it, voice it, and just move on to the next one. So let's see. Russ, have there ever been any projects that you've done or episodes of a series that you were close to being finished, but you decided to scrap because it wasn't good enough? I don't think so. I think what usually happens is I rearrange stuff kind of midway. Like I realize, you know what, I should change this. I'm more likely to tear out half of it that's not good. I mean, I did put an end to Moon Gaming, but that was more of like based off of fan reaction. Actually, that's happened in the next episode where, okay, here's what I was thinking. For Game Dungeon, I was thinking, I'll split it where the ones where I'm getting a lot of help and I might just be covering mainstream games as opposed to more weird or obscure ones. That'll be the new series, and I was going to call it Diet Game Dungeon. And then just save Ross's Game Dungeon for like the more out there episodes, like more weird games. But I said, you know what, that's just, after going through the next one, I realized, you know what, this is really similar to Game Dungeon. It's like, it just doesn't even seem worth making the distinction, I guess. Or to say it is kind of an out there game, but I am getting help with it. I mean, to edit, because it does, some games it pretty much has to be me playing it, and I need to be much more hands-on with the editing. But other games, no, not really. So I decided, you know what, I'm just going to keep it Roz's Game Dungeon. And what will happen is the production quality levels might vary. I'll try my best for every episode for the writing and the acting. Well, not acting, but the narration and edit notes. I'll try my best in each episode, but I might cut some corners more for like more mainstream games, that sort of thing. Ones where they're pretty well known. You don't necessarily need me to talk about them to know more about them. I mean, let's see. Ross, how do you feel about open world games? Do you think open world adds playability? I'm pretty sure this one got asked, but okay. Or games that are more linear your style? It just depends. I mean, hey, I mentioned The Crew. That's why I'm so excited, is because it not only is it open world, it's open world, entire miniaturized version of the United States. I don't know any other driving game that does that. So that gets me really excited. I want to explore all of it. But other things, I feel like, you can have an open world, but it feels pretty hollow. I think the thing and in that case, I'd rather have just a good story and it be linear, or just really solid gameplay, or well thought out maps, rather than just try to do everything. I think the important thing is with open world, you need or at least I need a real purpose. Usually my purpose is to just explore everything. That's why I don't mind kind of DayZ clones, is because those are kind of aimless aside from just surviving and I guess avoiding players killing you. But I just make it my goal. Okay, I want to see all this map has to offer, and then once I do, I consider myself beating the game. So, which can be a challenge for some zones anyway, because everybody's gonna be firing at you. But yeah, I'm fine with either. I don't necessarily have a preference for either one. Russ, what are your settings for recording gameplay footage? Really high for Game Dungeon. In fact, most of the time I record okay, like for old games like with low resolution, I record it's lossless basically. So it doesn't get compressed until I put it. I use H.264 compression until it's already edited, it's rendered, and then that's like the last step before sending it to YouTube to try to keep the quality as high as I can. A lot of games I try to record lossless, especially if like the color's real good. For games where I'm not too concerned about the color, or hey, this might happen more in the future, just the size gets too punitive. I'll use shadow play, but even then I use like the highest setting. It's like 50 megabits per second or something like that. I'm sure I'd go overkill. And the thing with the color, I keep mentioning the color. The thing is, if you have like a smaller image, well, I've explained this before, but basically, the short version is you do see a small difference depending on the game and the colors they're using between like we're kind of recording lossless versus just recording kind of normal compressed color space level and then sending that to YouTube. So if any of my games seem a little more vibrant than some others on YouTube, hopefully, then that's why. I don't know. I just don't like. I don't like. Okay, I lost my train of thought. I'm not making these questions up. These are in the chat. Why don't you donate? Why don't you advertise your donations more clearly? You got money for years, but you don't get barely anything monthly. You kidding? It saved me. What I'm getting monthly is saved me. Okay? I mean, it'd be through the floor. Most crowdfunded YouTubers I know get pretty constant donations every month. Some people really don't like the like and favorite please stuff, but a link in the description won't hurt. I was really wary about doing that sort of thing when I did the Begathon video, because it's like, I imagine the average person is like me. They just want to come, maybe watch a funny video before they go to bed or something, and just kind of enjoy themselves without having to worry about like the creator's financial problems. And I didn't. I really hate to kind of lay that sort of thing on viewers, I wanted to avoid it as much as possible. It's like I said in the Begathon video. The one type of person who I do want to donate, like absolutely do it right now, is the kind that, like that person who just has so much money that they subscribe to things all the time, then forget about them. They could be spending hundreds of dollars or thousands in the case I gave per year and just not even remember it because it's their finances are such they don't have to worry about that. If you're that type of person, absolutely go donate right now. Accursedfarms.com/donations. But for everybody else, I just three things I want for money, kind of, or no, I guess two if you want to lump it up. I was going to say food, shelter, and essentials kind of, I guess you call it just essentials and just sort of some financial security about the future. So, the two lowest rungs of like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that's all I want money for. I'm not, if I'm meeting those, then I feel like why ask people for more money, because that's, I hate doing that. I hope I never have to make a video like the Begathon video again. I absolutely, I hate doing that so much. It's not even a pride thing. I just feel like really just kind of bad laying that on other people. Um, the Although I will say, once I resume Freeman's Mind, I think, yeah, I think I'll put that in. Just really uninvasive, just a little note in like the description at the bottom on YouTube. You know, not even a note at the end or anything. Just so you know, donations are welcome. I'm gonna put a link. And as I figure, if I'm resuming Freeman's Mind, yeah, okay. I feel like it's okay to put it there then. Okay. Have you ever considered composing your own music? If you have, what genres of music have you considered? I'm not good enough. I sort of have a rough theme in mind that I might have in like the opening credits for the movie that I could maybe work with a composer to get out, unless they come up with something better. Honestly, I feel like good musicians are like magicians to me. I mean, I'm fond of music, but I don't have that kind of inspiration, really. I mean, I don't think like, oh, this would be such a good song, or it's incredibly rare. You know, I can think of a weird situation or what might be a funny video without too much trouble, but actually thinking of like original music for it, it doesn't really enter my head. So I'm very impressed by people who have that ability. Okay. How long have you had long hair, and will you ever change the style? Um, Actually, I have a game lined up at some point. Not this, probably not this month, but that'll go into more detail on this. It's towards the top of a game dungeon. It might take a month or two to get to it, but I've had it. Geez, I think I had it ever since I realized there was like a chance I could maybe make a living from YouTube. And like I didn't have it when I was a security guard or going to school, or rather later part of going to school, getting my degree. But I mean, I started growing out like sort of high school, had it for a few years, and then once I was actually kind of considering like a, yeah, I mean, you can laugh all you want, but I mean, I was actually considering something related, tangentially related to, well, not even tangentially, but possibly related to law enforcement. I figured, well, yeah, okay, hair's got to go then if I'm going to go with that route. But I kind of like how I look better with it. As for changing the style, I'll save that more for the future game dungeon. It'll tie in well to it. Russ, why do you think Jonathan is over the top with his humor? Well, that's his style, you know. He's talented at it. Ross, what did you think of Star Wars The Force Awakens? Where does it stand among the other 6 films for you? It stood about where I predicted it would be. I wasn't sure it was going to be as good as the original trilogy, but well, I went in assuming it would be better than the prequels, and I think that's how it came out. Something's weird about Force Awakens. It feels like a very okay, you guys can let me know if I'm crazy or not. The original Star Wars movies kind of feel like they had like a real story to tell. I mean, yeah, it's straightforward, but you know, like, hey, let's make a movie. Let's try to. This one feels very carefully constructed and not in important details. More like let's make it maximum marketing material or something like that, or just it has that touch of written by committee feel to it. I'm sure there's someone on the internet who could probably explain that much better than I can, but it's giving me that sense. Some movies give me that sense, some don't. Like like even a very Hollywood blockbuster, let's just make money, have some explosions movie, doesn't necessarily give me that feel. Whereas other things really give me this feel that like it just seems so carefully constructed, so that's what I'm getting at. Not carefully constructed, because of course a carefully constructed movie is a good thing. Carefully constructed in that they want to hit maximum demographics, just everyone. Like it's like they try too hard to to have to try to appeal to everyone, and I don't think that's how the best movies are. I think the best, just try to make your movie funny or try to make it exciting or have a really interesting story, and you get the crowds coming in that way. But of course, with name recognition like Star Wars and Disney marketing muscle behind it, they're gonna break all kinds of records. But I think they have. But I guess I keep thinking of something like Back to the Future. That's a movie. A lot of people like that movie. I think it's great, but they do it because it's a fun movie. It's a fun adventure. You feel like there's a real story there. So I don't know. So, some movies give me that sense, some don't, and that one gave me sort of that sense. But let's see. What was your opinion about genre hopping games like Evoland? Evoland is one I think I've only seen some footage from it. Genre hopping works if I like the genres and if they can sort of make it work. It's tricky. I mean, I don't know. I'm not against it if they can pull it off, but it might wreck your flow too. So. Ross, if you could travel to Mars and help colonize it, would you, and why? No, too dangerous. I mean, if you get radiation exposure and something goes wrong, that's it. You're dead. I mean, even once you arrive there. But I like the concept of space. Just because I like the concept of space travel and can play like space games doesn't mean I actually would want to do it. So. Yeah, I think I'd have to go more for like farther sci-fi, like ones where they have, entire planetary colonies and other systems or something, where it's a much more established thing than just Mars. I was watching a stream by Rabas, and he talked about how you were one of the people who inspired him to make YouTube videos. I don't know if you know about him, but he's a really successful YouTuber. I think I don't know him, but the name sounds familiar. I guess I should check that out. How does it feel knowing you're inspiring a lot of people on the internet with your work? Oh, this is good if it works. I mean, from my perspective, I feel like I've never done it completely right. I've always, every video I see, well, it could be better. But that's the thing. Like some videos I see after the fact, oh, I should have changed that to this. But most of them, I know it can be better, but I don't always know how. So I just hopefully get better at it in time. But that's sort of what the movie is, though. That's part of the reason it's taken so long, is because I'm not going to be a perfectionist with it, but man, I want to make sure I'm really happy with where it is. And for the parts that are completed, I am very happy with how they are. So, yeah. I don't want any weak spots that feel weak to me, I guess. But yeah, I'm fine with inspiring people. Yeah, you could do worse. You could do worse. Okay, I might as well answer this one because this keeps getting asked. Have you tried System Shock 1? This is going to sound like blasphemy. No, I haven't. Because first, it was no mouse aiming. So it was like, okay, well, no. And then there was a mod that added mouse aiming. So it's like, okay, I should probably get around to playing it. But even then, I think it was going to be more like Realms of the Haunting Affair, that kind of mix mode crap. I hate that. But then as I was getting around to that, I hear that they're doing the remake of it, and the remake looks very true to the original, or else is changing things to make it scarier. I mean, but like the map layout looks almost identical. It's like, man, I'm just gonna wait for the remake. I mean, I'm not into old games just because they're old. I'm into old games that, hey, this is a good game. It just happens to be old. So if they're really trying to preserve the spirit of it, and I think they are. I hope they're using the original dialogue and everything, and they keeping the same map layout, but can give me normal first-person shooters. Yeah, I'm gonna go for it. You know, just go for the remake. So. You know, what's your opinion on Star Trek in general? I like it, sort of, but Star Trek's always been kind of hit or miss with a lot of episodes. I'd say the hit or miss increases the more modern you get, because I'd say most of the original Star Trek episodes are just fun and good, and only a few that are kind of not so great. Next Generation, it's like some are just awesome. I love them. And others just like, it's a soap opera in space. That's all it is. And, you know, it's like a roll the dice, see what you get. Voyager kind of more misses, but they had really cool concepts in there. And I haven't seen Enterprise. I heard it wasn't that great. And this divides people, but I just could not get into most of Deep Space Nine. Like, I saw one episode. In fact, I didn't like it. It just didn't work for me for the most. I mean, the first episode of Deep Space Nine really shows it all too, because you have that awesome sequence where, geez, I don't remember his name. The guy who's in charge of everything. They show him escaping the Borg war. It's like, oh, that's awesome. I want to see more of that. And then like the rest is just them kind of talking and being moody, and on the space base. And they're like, no, go back to the Borg War. That was great. More of that. But, yeah, I still need to see Enterprise, the newer one. Newish one. And the movies, I don't know. I like some things about the first one, but I didn't like how they handled Spock. Like, young Spock. The personality seemed all wrong. And it seemed like they were trying to work in the love triangle with Uhura. It didn't felt forced and not working. And then the second one, Into Darkness, I felt like they were just towards the end. I felt like they were flat out trolling the audience when they had like the reversal of the Wrath of Khan scene. It's like, are you kidding me? I don't even know if I'm gonna watch the next one after what they did in the second one. So. Okay. What do you think about green technology and renewable resources? Could they prevent or at least minimize the cheap oil crisis and environmental pollution? Well, yeah, some degree. I mean, yes, it's not that simple though. That's the best answer. Yes, but it's not that simple. Because like to really replace oil, I mean, I guess you'd have something like, I mean, my understanding is like to scale with something like electric vehicles, it's not really going to scale in time by the time we run out of cheap oil. Yeah, just to clarify, I think I said this before, I was never suggesting we will run out of oil. That won't happen. I mean, in our lifetimes. But cheap oil, just running out of cheap oil is enough to just be an economic bombshell. But really, railway is kind of the fastest way to averting an oil crisis. And as for environmental pollution, obviously green energy is going to be cheaper. I mean, cause less pollution than something. Like I don't know. Let's see. Well, I guess coal is kind of the main one for electricity generation. And nuclear is kind of weird because in some ways nuclear is really clean, and other ways it's the absolute most dangerous pollution you can imagine. It's like if you contain it, if it's contained and you keep it safe, sure, nuclear is good. But the tricky thing is like having enough energy generation in different areas. Like, say, okay, we can get green energy going, but it won't, or maybe not be as reliable. Like, you know, if you get a bunch of solar panels up in an area where it's not always sunny, or wind turbines area where it's not always windy, then what you know what would really help more than anything, actually, well, besides political barriers, but because that can always happen, is like better battery storage or way to store the energy. That way, if you have unreliable energy, but it absolutely produces enough on average, then you could have that distributed to the batteries when it's not producing enough. But energy production is extremely complicated. You know, it's amazing we're running as well as we are. So it's not always as simple as let's just move to clean energy. It's so many variables come into play. So, but of course, that's something we should be kind of trying our best to do anyway. You know, but so many variables and potential obstacles. I've had trouble getting into Diablo-like games. Got any recommendations? I've tried Torchlight 2 and Path of Exile, and so far I was kind of on both. May not be your genre, man. If you've tried, because you tried the opposite ends of the spectrum. Because Path of Exile is one of the best, and Torchlight 2, I played the first one. I haven't played the second one. I wasn't as big a fan as sort of the cartoonish look of it. But, you know, whereas on the other end of the spectrum, Path of Exile goes more for like the brutal side. I mean, you could maybe try Titan Quest or something, but if you didn't like Path of Exile or Torchlight, dude, it may just not be your genre. You know, no sense in forcing yourself on a game genre you don't like. You know, it's. Russ, do you need experienced gameplay recorders and editors for the Game Dungeon spinoff, or are you fine with rookies or people who are new to it like me? Well, I'm still catching up on emails. Yeah, I think I've sent about 250. I think I sent 250 to 300 emails last month. I'm still not caught up, but I sent a lot. I may have had enough offers as it is, but I mean, if you want to help, you can. For editors, no, I think I don't want a complete rookie, actually. Pretty much everyone who's applied to editing, I have to see some samples of their work just to get an idea of what. For recorders, it's more important that you're able to just kind of be willing to play the game or whatever, but I have sort of standards I'm going to want people to follow with the recording quality. They won't have to go as overkill as what I do, but I want to make sure they kind of adhere to certain things, like with anti-aliasing and like which recording software they use for that game, or for DOS games, it'll be a lot easier because DOSBox supports, you know. It has a recorder that works pretty well. So, Ross, do you keep Freeman's Mind separate from Game Dungeon on purpose? You mentioned the teacup rides in Disneyland, both Freeman's Mind and Game Dungeon and Test Drive 3. I try not to repeat jokes. I'm not always successful. Unless they're jokes that, like slapstick or something where, a good sucker punch never gets old. I try my best not to repeat jokes, but my memory, I don't always remember every single thing I've said, especially Freeman's Mind, because, God, there were some, I was just sort of in a frenzied state trying to get them out. How do you feel about Mark Laidlaw leaving Valve? I think I remember reading about that. I think I talked about. Okay, you know what? I think I've discussed this and I forgot what I said. look up on Valve News Network channel. I think that was in a discussion I had with Tyler there. So check that. He had me on for one podcast thing. So I think I mentioned it there. What advice would you give to yeah, this question I get a lot. What advice would you give to someone who wants to start his own YouTube channel? Like I know what I'm doing necessarily. Well, just try to make, I mean, I guess it depends on what you want to do, but I mean, a general rule of thumb is just try to make your videos the best they can be for what you're trying to do, or within a certain quality standard, because even if you never get a big audience, you want to at least have something good enough that you're happy showing to like some of your friends or other people you know. So yeah, just aim for quality, I guess, which is probably the exact opposite of what you should do to get like really big on YouTube, because they want you to post like every day. But like this, I'm not making it just from YouTube income now. I was once upon a time, but not anymore. So. Do you ever see things that make you think, man, the world is beautiful, or I hate today? What are your biggest pet peeves? Well, yeah, okay, I see my mood at like any given time. I mean, unless there's like a huge external thing going on, because then just day-to-day mood, I want to say maybe it's just me, but I'd say a whole hell of a lot of it is determined by what kind of foods I'm eating, and if I'm getting exercise. Like if I'm not getting, like I can if you get exercise regularly, it will completely eliminate some types of bad moods. And I mean that's why I do it, really, just so I can kind of think straight. Not every bad mood, but some types of feelings. I don't really have the language to describe it, but that'll do it. And for food, white flour and sugar can absolutely send your moods into all kinds of places, or at least it does with me. I'm gonna do a Ross rant on that one. I think that could be my funniest Ross rants I have planned. So I want to get to it at some point. Oh, and biggest pet peeves. Geez, I don't know. Like, well, waiting in lines. Like, unless they have something else to do, I really hate waiting. I really hate just standing waiting. If something's inefficient, it just takes me a long time. I'm so much more comfortable not just standing waiting. That can drive me a little bit crazy. So somebody. Okay, as I got older and more educated, I noticed a lot of references to psychology in your videos, references to Freud, to Sifri's cave study, etc. Did you major in psychology, study it depth in high school, anything like that? I did study psychology in high school, and I minored in psychology in college. I don't know. I find it interesting, especially like. I think the kind I like the most is observing patterns of behavior. Like, if this happens, it's extremely likely like this portion of the population is going to do this or react this way, that sort of thing. You can predict general broad things more and more the more that sort of thing you can learn about. See, even with psychology is like a science where I'd say it's simultaneously a hard science and a soft one, because the hard aspect is when you do experiments. You know, do this test on like just hundreds of people, or over time, and or like what parts of the brain light up from this stimulus, that sort of thing. That's actual science. And there's other stuff that's, yeah, like Freud, most of what Freud has come up with was like, well, maybe there's some to it. Maybe it's just some person making up things that just got accepted. So the empirical stuff from psychology is the stuff I think that has more merit. What software do you use to compress your videos? I use Handbrake. It's an X264. Well, it can code in a couple different things, but years back when I made the transition to X264, I was like staring at different scenes like that might trigger it, like with fog or other stuff, and testing quality settings, just getting. So that's what I like to do. I like to really do something right and then just set it up and forget about it for years and just do it. Put a lot of energy into it and then just get it done, and so I can forget about it. And I found Handbrake settings work better for me than just the raw X264 encoder at the time. I forget. So, or like their presets. It was doing something. I mean, we're talking really subtle differences, but Handbrake worked pretty well. Okay, how far? Oh, I'm pretty far behind in the chat. Okay. Okay, I'll start getting more selective. Have you considered streaming for a few hours a couple of times a week? Maybe. I don't know. It's like normally, this brought up before. It's like normally when I play games, it's like I don't necessarily want to be just kind of talking the whole time while I'm doing it. I just want to get more absorbed in the game. But I might start doing that at some point for graphic adventure games. But again, it's a time management. When I have time for, it sounds crazy when I have time for games. You know, most of what I do actually is not playing games. It's mostly editing, either audio or video or working on other stuff. So. Ross, do you think Star Citizen will ever get out? Yeah, I think so. I mean, it would be such a mess. I mean, they have an alpha now, don't they? I mean, or pre-alpha or something. I think Star Citizen is just a case of ambition getting the better of the designer and the funds to keep it going. So, you know, yeah, it'll come out. Somebody's asking if I need experience with Unity. I mean, help with it. Look, whether I go with Unreal 4 or I go with Unity, yes, I will be happy for help. I'm not ready for you yet, but I will be happy for help, especially doing things like setting up the scenes, you know, or say we have a bunch of stock animations here. Okay, fine, make this villager walk over here, or have this one chop an axe, you know, or, you know, in later phases, I might just get somebody. I mean, again, this depends on which engine I end up falling down on, but I might just get somebody just to do lighting. You know, I'll say like, okay, I want this kind of warm. It's like a tavern scene or something. Have a look at, okay, this is daylight. There's a dusk scene, but we want a little more visibility than might be natural, just to make it, and just let somebody go at it. And like, that's their whole job, setting up the lighting for the scenes. Just because, I mean, I can do that sort of thing, but it's time consuming. And that's such a good thing to hand off to somebody else who might be better at it and more interested in it than I am. I mean, so, but yeah, both people who work in the engine and animators, if they want a spot and they're halfway decent, they're likely to get some sort of place in the movie if they want to. But one step at a time. Just I'm behind where I want to be. But the movie, but like this, movie production has not stopped. No, no means necessary. No, but not at all. Okay. I'm trying to see if I can keep this under 2 hours. I'll see what the questions are. If you had a chance to remake Freeman's Mind, would you consider doing it in Black Mesa? No, just it's done. Freeman's Mind. Okay. I haven't noticed it until now, but you seem to read pretty slowly. Do you like to read, or are you more of a film show guy, as you seem to discuss those more? Well, okay. Okay, there was two. I lose my place when I'm looking at this. I mean, I kind of turn back towards the camera or looking at another window. And also, there'll be the chat, and then there'll be like 5 or 6 messages in between there. That's why I'm having people put the equal sign so I have some sort of visual indicator. I mean, I don't think I read it particularly slowly, but I mean, maybe. I don't know. I mean, see, I'm going through like just kind of skimming, trying to find the next page, and then I read the question and see, is this something I want to answer, or so I'm kind of skimming it too. I'm not a speed reader, but I don't think I'm that slow. So. Ross, how do you feel about younger generations trying to explore and learn about games of the past of your generation? Do you think not growing up with said games affects the experience? I have no idea. Like it's weird because once you go back before my generation, the games are so primitive. So it's not it doesn't really kind of grab me in the same way. I'd say it's basically if they can get past the graphics, I'd say sure, because I mean, I watch old movies. I watch movies that are a lot older than I am. Usually my cutoff point is like around silent films. So once I'm not big into silent films, so black and white onward, I'll watch. Although even then, you can see the styles kind of shift. Some time periods favor some genres more than others, I think, in terms of like how they're doing them. But if I have one message for people wanting to go back and play older games, like don't be discouraged by these games that are so god awful complex that you're never going to get anywhere unless you studied it for an hour, or ones that are just brutally difficult. There are there are other good ones worth checking out. Hey, the next Game Dungeon is going to be a game like that. One worth checking out. So, but if some people can't get past the graphics, I can understand that too. But I mean, for me, with graphics, it's like I'm not huge on on sort of the NES or EGA graphics. I mean, you can have really great games. They're just not. I never really like the look of that. What's weird is I kind of like Atari or Commodore 64 graphics. They seem to have more colors going on, but I didn't like the palette of that stuff. But once you get into VGA or Genesis or Super Nintendo onward, sure, I like the visuals. Okay, I'm getting distracted. I'm taking too long on the questions again. Voice additions for the movie later. I'll have a video about that on the main channel when I do it. So, let's see. Oh, okay. I thought I misread that. You mentioned in the past you have no problem with people using your work for custom merchandise. until your store is back on. Does that still hold? For personal use, yes. That is fine for personal use. But if you're setting up your own store and selling like Freeman's Mind logos, no, that's not cool, guys. Come on. But if you just want to, if you want it for you or your friend or like a family member, sure, go ahead. You can make custom stuff. It's just, I'll try to get it up. It's just never been my priority. And the thing is, I know once I set this up, it's going to be like a $20 shirt and I'm making like $1 from it. So, you know, it just, that doesn't get me that interested in it. So, let's see. What is the absolute smoothest interaction with a computer you've ever had? Like an easy day of recording, a good peripheral, etc. Well, the SSD really helps things. I mean, it takes out so many kinks in a normal operation that you would get from a hard drive. Yeah, probably SSD was the biggest jump. Yeah, see now it looks like I'm reading slowly, but somebody wrote a lot here. Somebody thinks they're gonna. Somebody's asking. Oh, okay, fine. I'll entertain this one. It is very possible that I will see an actual AI in my lifetime, but what actual uses will we realistically have for it? Look, if we see an one, I don't think we are. I don't think we're gonna see it. I mean, call me closed-minded. I just, it's so far. Hey, you know what? We landed on the moon back in the 60s. We haven't, what's the closest star? Alpha Centauri or something. You know, we haven't made it there. We're not even close. You know, maybe if we tried really damn hard, we can make it to Mars. Or if that was like our absolute priority as a species, we can make it to Phobos or something. I mean, not Phobos, Europa. You know, there's really huge barriers with AI. It's the same thing. We don't even understand how our own brains work completely. But okay, let's say we come up with an AI. It's going to be, if we actually created an AI, it's not going to, I don't think it's going to be like anything you've seen in the movie. It's just going to be like so far beyond what we are. And would only, I don't know, it might go insane in like a fraction of a second just because it's kind of trapped in just its own thoughts forever, you know? I mean, well, forever for a computer. So I don't know. It would be a broken wreck of a thing or beyond what we can really comprehend. So. Okay, let's see. Ross, why do you record your videos and then compress them? OBS already compresses them with an encoder. I record them losslessly. If I were to upload that, I mean, for the main videos, that would be like, what? Okay, yeah, here's an 80 gig video to send up to YouTube. Yeah, I don't think I want to do, or 150 gig one, you know? No, most of them aren't quite that big. But for OBS, the reason I don't usually recompress, I only recompress them if something goes wrong, like if the feed cuts out for the live ones. I normally send it the same. However, the audio, a lot of people complain it's too quiet. I haven't figured out a way to boost it without blowing it out, so I usually normalize the audio. If somebody knows of a way for me to do that without even having to edit the audio at all and just mux it back into the stream, let me know. Because otherwise, I'd be happy to just throw it up as it is. Okay, getting closer to the chat. I skipped a couple questions I didn't have easy answers for. Do you have any new projects coming soon? No, I'm just trying to get a better production going for Game Dungeon, and then hopefully that'll let me free up some time for me to get more going either on the movie or some other projects. See, now I'm getting hot. I gotta eat. Yeah, I don't need to pay to get cold. I mean, pay to get hot. Yeah, so this guy keeps asking about it. Yes, I've heard of Pathologic, but I haven't played it because I'm kind of confused. It seems like there's 2 or 3 versions in the works. Like, there's like a remaster, and then there's like an HD version, and then maybe something else. So I'm not sure what version I should play. Plus, I don't know if it's one I want to just jump towards because I'm not what I don't really seek out depressing games, and I get the feeling that one might be kind of depressing. I don't know. I mean, horror is not the same as depressing. Horror is like, like, everybody's screaming, running around panicked, or scaring the hell out of you. That's a totally different mood than like depression. And I'm not big into depressing games. That's sort of the opposite reason I like to play games. And not saying it shouldn't exist, but Will you be releasing a trailer for the movie, or will it be released out of nowhere? No, I'll have a big lead up to it. I'll have a trailer. I'll try and get as much publicity as I can for it. Uh, However, when I do a trailer, I might actually change a lot of shots to make it a little different. So I want to have like absolute minimum spoilers for you, but still have enough to get people interested. So so the whole thing could even be stuff that's not actually in the movie, but it's the same spirit of what it will be in the movie, or the movie's even better, that sort of thing. But I'll put a little note on that because I want people to have a chance to kind of go in, not to get a first impression of it. Russ, your upper lip is going down a little faster than your left. Is it somewhat numb like Sylvester Stallone? Not that I know of. It could just be the angle, but actually, I think Stallone had to overcome a speech impediment for acting. Okay, I'm basically caught up with the question. Well, okay, this one's easy. What is your favorite Metroid game? I have not played the Metroid Prime games, but the ones I have played, Super Metroid. I guess number 2 would be that Metroid 2 remake. The fan one, the fan remake that came out recently. Then Nintendo brought it down. You can still find it through torrents. AMR, yeah, AMR 2. No, AM2R, another Metroid 2 remake. It very polished game. I liked it more than Fusion, I think. Ross, have you previously complained about singers and music videos? Have you considered muting them out with music editing software and just have the music? I think that's easier said than done, and the results are always going to be kind of iffy. I've seen that attempted in like movie soundtracks where the score is never released, so somebody tries to filter it, but it might be more reliable for music, but I don't know. I think it would come through kind of distorted. Okay, guys, I know I skipped a ton of questions, but between what came up, between Reddit, the other questions, and the chat, I think that was over 100 questions that I had coming at me. So, here, I'll pick 2 more. As the remaining ones, I'll just pick 2, or if I don't really want them, guess I'll talk about something else, or I'll go ahead and end it. I'm trying not to make these last so long, you know. And there'll be a delay before that comes up. I've been playing a little bit of Planet Base lately. It's a somewhat addictive game, so I gotta be careful with that. Okay, heliocentrical. I'm calling you out because you ask way too many questions, man. Like you ask like 20 or something. Try to constrain yourselves, guys. Like, and this is like every session. I see your name pop up. So, have you posted your scaling trick anywhere? No, I just announced it for the first time today. I thought I'd pass that along. I only figured it out like a week ago. Let's see. Okay, well, I guess if nobody else has questions, that would kind of... Okay, come on. And now everybody's trying to shame him. I don't need to shame him in the chat. Just like, you know, try to try to have some balance. You know, other people want to ask stuff too, is the thing usually. Okay, well, I'm not seeing that many more questions. Okay, well, here, I'll scroll up then, try and answer one that I missed. Well, no, the ones I skipped are ones that were not, I didn't have good answers for. Okay, so, yeah, that ended sort of on a down note. I didn't want to do that. Yeah, more Game Dungeon coming, at least 2. Again, I just have to do some audio editing, then the first one's kind of wrapped up till I get back the edit for the final version. We'll see how that goes. So if this next one goes well, I think a lot of them are going to go well, because this next one has a lot of things you kind of got to pluck the scenes out to match the dialogue. And we'll do Planetside 2, hopefully on Esamir, because it's winter. And I'll try and do a Supreme Commander one shot on hard. I'm going to do the last level for the faction and see if I can pull it off. Okay, I am working on things. That's a good way to end it. All right, see you everybody later.